morning. So I'm gonna confess something. I have, when you have like those dreams that you have personally, but you're too scared to admit yourself. I want to tell you one of mine. You can laugh if you want. I laugh all the time at it, but I've always wanted to be a talk show host. And I feel like one right now. So I'm going to do an introduction. I'm going to thank all of you and everyone involved in this event, but then I will continue on with the paid programming. So I'm also going to admit another thing. I'm currently still learning my language, and I want to introduce myself in my native language, but I have my introduction written on my phone, so don't mind me. I'm just going to read off my phone just because I don't want to embarrass myself and mess up. So, Pagalogipsi, Uvlalotak, Iñupiaq Siniga Kivvaq, Suli Tonig Siniga Kimberly Pikok, Utqiaġvik Miurunga, Apaga Lloyd Pikok, Atataga Iñupiaq Tommy Pikok Sr., Akaga Kivvaq Rhoda Pikok, Kovesuktunga Kairunga. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Oh, thank you. Good morning. I'm Iñupiaq. I'm from Barrow, Alaska. My father is Lloyd Pikok. My grandmother is Rhoda Kivvaq Pikok, and my grandfather is Tommy Iñupiaq Pikok Sr. And I'm really happy to be here. And as I mentioned, I really wanted to thank a few people. First of all, anyone in the GLEX and the Explorers Club, you all are amazing, especially the social media team, the people with the fancy cameras, the ones helping with sound and making these beautiful presentations. Oh, wow, okay. You're all fantastic and amazing, and you do a really good job. And then the next people I want to thank are the people who gave out our name tags, the beautiful women standing outside with welcoming you all in. Oh, okay. They are probably the most heartwarming people I've ever met, and they do such a good job at making every one of us feel special. So just give a big round of applause for the beautiful women out there. Cool. So there's a few things that I want to say before I get started. There were a few young people who walked up to me and said that they're excited to see me talk and that I inspire them. But in all honesty, you all inspire me just because, and I'm not saying that just to say it, I really mean it. Like, you all inspire me. You're here, you're learning, and that's really inspiring. And honestly, if you keep working hard and you just keep being yourselves, you'll do amazing work. Even though you already are doing amazing work, you will continue to do that. And I'm really excited to see you all get up on stage one day to present on what you do. So that's just a little bit about what I wanted to do before I get started. And to continue with my paid programming, I will be talking about the Indigenous ways of knowing. But before you could, I guess, learn more about what I do, I need you to understand where I come from. So in this background photo, we've all talked about what's important to us, like what is that one special place. You all mentioned mountains, glaciers, caves, but to me, my special place is 20 miles south from town. And in this photo, I know you can't really see it, but this is Pikok Camp. And we took a snow machine to Pikok Camp a few times just because it takes 2 hours to get there on a snow machine. But that's my special place. And in this special place is a sense of belonging, healing, history, beauty, wildlife, and of course, the challenges. So, like I mentioned in my introduction, my grandparents are, their photograph is right there. My Aka, or my grandmother, I was named after her, and then That's my grandfather, Tommy Iñupiaq Pikok. And they created Pikok Camp in the 1960s. And now we have 3 generations of cabins out there. That's my dad's, that's my grandfather's, and then most recently, my brother's. And I know you probably wanted to show me, or wanted to look at photos about the ocean. But my family, we're from the land. And I know that's not typical of what a Barrow person is, but that's pretty normal to me. And what we really focus on, we're a fishing family. We have dried fish, and it's made out of broad white fish, and we hang it up in the sun. And it's actually one of the most amazing things you could ever eat. And I'm kind of hungry right now. So even though I'm from Barrow, I'm actually a graduate student right now at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And my topic is multi-generational perspectives and seasonal changes of Utqiaġvik spring whaling. And before I go any further, any photo you see on here was taken by my brother. He is a self-taught photographer, which is pretty cool. Like, he learned from YouTube. That's pretty fantastic to me. But my overarching question and research goal is, how can we center Indigenous knowledge and storytelling in science and wildlife management? And since I'm in grad school, I have a list of notes. Notes are important to me, so I'm going to read off of mine. So I'm using local hunter and whaler observations from the Alaska Arctic Observatory and Knowledge Hub. I'm specifically focusing on Barrow's observations from our 2 observers, Billy Adams and Joe Mello-Levitt. Their observations encompasses all or most aspects of Barrow's, ecosystem, but more emphasis on what is important to our community and hunters. Oh no. This is an important tool because we are seeing changes in observations in real time and from our own point of view. I'm also listening to a series of oral history recordings and old interviews and pairing all of this with data from the North Silboro Department of Wildlife Management and the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission. And this is such an awesome phenomena because as a scientist, it is important to see what resources are already there to fill in gaps and to advance our understanding. But this is Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous science and Iñupiaq power at play. And then to talk more about storytelling, my brother and I were actually making a short documentary about spring whaling, but from a whaler's perspective, because oftentimes we hear the perspectives from Western scientists. But what about our whalers? They're obviously the ones whaling, but how come our voices are not being heard? So what is the need and the purpose? In this image on the left, you see women and kids sewing, and they're sewing sealskin for our spring whaling boats. But I wanted to talk more about why it is important for this research. We are gaining an understanding about how we can use Indigenous knowledge in our research as Western scientists. But what we aren't understanding is that there's already a lot of resources out there, like people in our communities. They have the knowledge. Why aren't we able to just center and uplift their voices in management decisions? And that is why I do the work that I do. And moving on to, so honestly, I work 3 to 4 jobs right now. If you see them on my phone, I'm working. Just too many jobs. But within each job, I have different job titles. But within each job I have, everyone always asks me, why do I do the things I do, and who do I do it for? And this gets really emotional for me, but if I cry, you don't have to mind me. But what I do want to emphasize is that my grandparents' generation, their parents' generation, my dad and his generation, and even the generation now, we've all been told that our voices and our experiences do not matter, that our opinions you can do away without. And that's not okay if you're researching in communities. And what's kind of annoying, these people who are telling us that we don't matter, they come from DC. They don't step foot in my community or any community that they research. So in my culture, we are rooted in community and respect for animals, oceans, and land because our connection to life around us, we all take the time to learn from it and from each other. All our voices, no matter what age you are, no matter what you do for a living, and no matter what kind of experiences you have, you matter, your voice matters, and your opinion matters. And that's what I like about where I come from. And the work that I do is not an effort, or it is an effort to support my community and have another outlet to uplift their stories. This work is all over the place in the circumpolar north. And I do this work to keep our youth inspired, to keep inspiring them, and to have them learn our way of life, have them be curious. And then I also do it for the elders and the people before us, because their voices were silenced. But now we're in a time where Indigenous knowledge is finally being incorporated into research. So I'm just paying respects to the people before us who fought for our rights and who fought for our voices to be a part of management and research and just all the beautiful things that come from it. And I also wanted to emphasize that this type of research and work has been going on for ages. So don't give me credit, give people before me credit, because they're the ones that inspired me and others to keep our community going. And I think that's all I had to say. I have a celebrity guest, Kimberly Pikok.
Please welcome GLEX Chair Kimberly Pikok.
That was great, Kim. Really great. I want to first ask, how many people here have been to Point Barrow? A few hands are raised. That's great.
Wow.
So, Kim, what is it that makes you most proud to be from this very special part of the world?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many different things. I think one of my favorite things is being from Barrow and being at Iñupiaq is that there's no hierarchy in our community. Like, job titles don't matter. It's how much you serve the community that matters, and I think that's really important. But another thing that I'm very proud of, I come from a strong line of people and a very strong community, and we have a lot of persistence in the work that we do, and that's just really what I love about our people. They're strong and they keep going.
That's great. And how was it growing up, and how unusual is it for you to become a scientist?
That's also a good question. So I grew up playing in the mud outside my house, building, everyone, all the kids, they built ramps out of dirt. It's like the size of the L on GLEX. That's a cute little podium thing, by the way. But what we didn't understand is that even though we played outside a lot, we're actually learning about the environment around us. Like, you see kids with their BB guns outside trying to get geese, they're gonna grow up and be really good hunters. And it's not, how do I say this? It is uncommon that scientists or local homegrown scientists, that's really uncommon. But in all honesty, when you define scientist, what is a scientist? They observe, they have long-term observations, they have equipment, they have hypotheses, they have big ideas and questions. But those are the same characteristics as a good hunter and a good whaler and also a good seamstress. So what you may define as a scientist, we define as a good hunter. But there's also a cool little term that's being now in academia. It's called Indigenous scientists, and that's what our hunters, whalers, and seamstresses are. But if you're talking about scientists in a Western context, there's honestly just a lack of opportunity for youth to get exposed to Western science. And even though we have a lot of researchers that come up to the Arctic, it's really hard to get them engaged with community and with youth, just because they fly in, they get their data, and they leave. But they don't really interact with the people. And what's really frustrating is that when they do go to the schools and they offer opportunities to students, they only target those with good grades. But the ones with good grades, they have to go to school. But then the ones who are hunters and their families, or ones that want to learn how to hunt, they don't have good grades. They don't have a high attendance rate. And they're the ones that are rejected to apply for anything because they don't have the academic standards. And that's really frustrating, because when you take those type of opportunities away from youth, especially the ones that are learning how to hunt, learning the conditions of sea ice, wildlife behavior, they're already starting to do things that we all went to school for decades to learn. So when you do those type of things, like reject students because their knowledge isn't the Western standard, you're taking away opportunities for them to experience the world in a different way.
So that's great. What kinds of challenges do you see lie ahead, both for you and for your community?
Oh, there's so many challenges. Well, the first one is that people think that we see climate change as a negative light. Yeah, there are negatives to climate change, but as Iñupiaq people, we've learned how to adapt. And I think that's really important, but you have to understand that we come from a place of looking on the bright side and never really on the wrong side. And another challenge is, with all the Arctic research that's happening, there's now a question of data sovereignty, like who's protecting our knowledge, who is protecting us as people. And then there's also another challenge of, I'm overworked. I have too many jobs, and it's just, we need to have more students engaged in management. But what I'm seeing now is that the students that were rejected from the geology program that I was in, they're in the same room as managers and scientists and researchers. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so very much. This is really wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. Come off here.